our reports are put together in two basic formats. One is Excel and the other is a Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
And so she's working with these individuals to really streamline that process. So the Excel side has really come a long way.
That's
We've really
great.
made some progress on that. Our next group is going to be the inspection side, which is the Word, which is the documentation, like this is your water heater, this is its condition, et cetera. And we're pretty excited about that.
There's so many new tools.
There's cameras out. You walk around with your phone and you record and you talk, and then it gives you a summary report. Well, that's half a reserve study right there.
Right.
So.
Hey guys, welcome to the Next Level Living podcast. I'm your host, Summer Blazer, with my co-host, Corey Neubauer. We would like to welcome Scott Clements. Hey, Scott's in the house.
Hi, guys.
We're excited to have you here with us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I think we have a legend in the house.
We do.
Yes.
Who's wearing his, his
doing
Pink
some
Floyd
research.
shirt, which I'm super stoked about.
My generation, man. That's my generation. The wall.
We'll get into that. And I appreciate your dress. I really do.
Me too.
For sure. So
Me too.
No, when we were putting this together, it was like, how do we describe Scott? And I think, Scott, I think he's a unicorn. It's such a unique set of characteristics. So we're excited to dive in. Why don't you give us a little promo of yourself, your company, just kind of who you are in a nutshell really quick, so that whoever's been living under a rock that doesn't know you might have a little bit more of who you are. So.
Okay. Well, for the last 25 years, I've been the CEO of Reserve Studies Incorporated. It's one of the pioneering companies in the industry. It got started, not long after the Davis-Sterling Act was enacted, and that was the reason that the company formed. Jeff Lunt and Les Weinberg formed it with that in mind. Their idea was that a reserve study, brand new product for the most part, it wasn't widely used. They needed both the expertise of the building inspector side, contractors, building inspectors, people that understand how buildings work and they're constructed, signs of age, degradation, and that. And then completely the opposite, which you don't find a skill set in these people, is the financial aspect. Somebody who understands inflation and adjustment and interest earned and, accumulated depreciation and all these terms.
I love how you go into all these terms because you know your stuff so well. But what? In a nutshell, we're talking to people that are living in communities, maybe not, maybe they want to serve on a board or they're just a homeowner. Sure. But simply put, what's a reserve study?
A reserve study is a long-term estimate of what it's going to take to maintain the facility.
I like that.
So regardless if it's an HOA, we have other, non-HOA clients. So we identify the components that, the big stuff, roofs, asphalt, things that cost, considerable amounts of money.
So hard assets, right?
Yeah, light fixture, who cares, right? But, when you're talking about really expensive items, and it goes on the scale. So whether you're 50 units or 5,000 units, it's going to be scalable at that. Mm-hmm. So those big ticket items are what we focus on, and we extrapolate out over a 30-year period. Because if you're just looking 10 years out, well, okay, but the big ticket stuff, asphalt, roofing, it lasts 30, 40, sometimes more.
Almost like a maintenance Bible,
so,
right?
Yeah, it is. And it's ongoing. Depending on the state that you live in and so forth, the update requirements are going to be different. But, you should be updating every 3 to 5 years just to make sure you're catching up with cost change. Inflation's been really on the board. Interest rates are up right now. They're going to be coming down soon. So, in 6 to 12 months, a lot of the projections and the information, the basic information, it's dated. So it has to be updated on a regular basis.
And what I've found interesting lately is, we work in the HOA space and how funded they are in the sense of those reserves funds. So that reserve study is telling you how much money you should have. And we see a lot of HOAs that are underfunded. And I might say, so what, right? But if you're buying a property, if you're looking at a property, that's help them understand, the difference between a well-funded HOA and the consequences of not being well-funded. We've talked about this in our stuff of
that comes up a lot.
Yeah, and the advice I give to members and people who are prospective members, and I do a lot of work, as you know, through the real estate community and investors. One is your current status, and the other is your trend line. So the current status is generally defined as your percent funded or where you're at. So on a scale of 0 to 100, 0 being the worst, 100 being the best, if I'm 75% funded, you're like, okay, all right, I'm not perfect, but I'm okay.
So that would be something like, hey, it's $100 million to replace everything. You have $75 million in the bank, right?
Correct.
Or do you have $25 million in the bank?
Yeah, and it's not quite to replace everything, it's the quote, accumulated depreciation. So that point in time, if you have an item, it lasts 10 years and costs $1,000, it depreciates at $100 a year. So after 3 years, you should have 300, after seven,
Right.
700. You don't need the full $1,000 until it's in fact 10 years old. And
Right.
sometimes it can fail before the 10 years. Sometimes you get to 11 years. And guess what? The money stays in the bank because you haven't had to replace that item. So
Right.
it's a projection, but yeah, it's to give you an order of magnitude. So again, if you're 70, 80% funded, you're like, okay, not awesome, but pretty good. If you're 14% funded, you're like, wow, we're probably going to get a special assessment. And if not, you're going to have increases to your regular assessments that far outpace inflation because you got to do catch up. Remember your operating costs, as we call these, and then again, HOA, non-HOA property owner. You've got your insurance and your maintenance, lawn care, all that kind of stuff. Well, that's going to be competitive, right? Because, you think one landscaper is going to be grossly different than the other. So your operating budgets are going to be pretty close and they're going to be consistent, gradually increasing over time. So yours is going to be the same as everybody else's. The big what ifs is there are well-funded associations and terribly funded associations. And so, as I mentioned, if you're, 14% funded, well, you may or may not have a special assessment. We'll talk about how to gauge for that. But you can bet that your assessments are going to go up well above inflation because you got to play catch up. We're right next door. If they're starting at 68% funded, okay, again, not awesome, but it's certainly not bad. Well, they're probably going to be inflationary, maybe a little bit above that.
So we can tell that Scott knows what he's talking about.
He knows.
And
He
I love the
definitely
fact
knows.
that he dives right into things because he's one of the most modest guys that he doesn't like to talk about himself. So we're gonna make him talk about himself a little bit
bit,
All right.
because he's I've had the pleasure of knowing you for a few years. I consider you a mentor, and I appreciate you'd said to me before some very nice things and given me a lot of advice, which I appreciate. And I like your mindset that we're all growing together and we're all doing better. So. You're in this community. You're all about education between CAI, CACM, all this stuff. Like that's key with this because it is so foreign to the typical homeowner, to the typical board member, to a manager, anybody. This is so different, so unique compared to what most people are used to.
Yeah, and if you want my plug, I've won
Please.
multiple awards.
Do it.
I've been Speaker of the Year,
There you
Author
go.
of the Year,
Yes.
a lot of Vision Awards, all kinds of stuff. So I've been recognized for that. And what I've learned is that, we put on a lot of these really great programs. A lot of co-speakers. Corey's been part of it. I get a lot of people to volunteer for the programs that I put on. It's awesome, but they're 2-3 hours sometimes. And, what exactly can you take away from that? So I've learned that, we're trying to condense it down, get away 2 or 3 things that they can walk away with. So like I say, when I'm talking to investors or potential, like, all right, well, what's their percent funded and what's their trend line?
Yeah.
Those are the 2 pieces of information, if you want to gouge through the report and look for the condition of their water heater, all
Fall
good
asleep,
for you,
right?
but
Yeah.
that's not exactly going to sway your purchase decision. So if they're poorly funded or they're not on a track to be reasonably well funded, those are the things that make a difference as an owner, as an investor.
Right.
The in particular about, when they're going to paint next and what color they're going to do. Nobody really cares about that from a, long range planning. And that's why we want to educate them. At the time you paint, well, argue about that then. Right now, you need to understand
do you
these
have
2 or
enough
3
money?
issues.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's not try and crowd you with unworthy information. Just again, plug. Our program is for the realtors is called What Every Realtor Needs to Know, because a lot of the program is taken from CAI you're familiar with. It has its education committee, it has its HOAU program. And so it has like a 2-hour segment on the law. It has a 2-hour segment on finance and reserves. It has a 2-hour segment on insurance, another 2-hour segment on contracts and maintenance. And it's all really good information, particularly if you are a homeowner or a board member. Realtors don't need to know that much to do
They're not
their
gonna put
job.
10 hours
But
of that.
the problem has been in the past, and then no offense to either side of the industry, is when somebody buys a car, well, they know a lot about the car because generally the person selling it knows a lot about it. When they buy it in an HOA, the realtor doesn't know anything about it because they're never taught that. The realtors are not required to answer one question in order to get their license. They're required, I believe it's 18 hours every 3 years or whatever it is. 0 of those hours are in HOA law or HOA specific issues. So they just simply haven't been informed to educate their buyers. So these buyers are often buying very blind. So these courses are designed to educate them what to be on the lookout for. So it's not like the realtors need the full, hey, here's how you run an HOA that we give the board members. But certainly they need more than the 0 that they're currently getting. So that's why we came out with the program. It's the need to know. What do you? So a board member needs to know more than a regular member.
Yeah, and I think if we look at the numbers, right, I think we've said something like 13 million people just in California alone live in an HOA. There's 55,000 HOAs. Any new construction has an HOA component to it. So it's not, even if you think you have a single family home, cities have HOAs thing. There's a lot of nuances with that. So yeah, everyone is going to be impacted by this, or at least to have a working knowledge. Right?
I mean, when I initially purchased in an HOA, I didn't know I needed to ask any of those questions, right?
Yeah.
About how well funded it was, all of those things. So, I mean, just really educating everyone, especially if they're an investor or a home buyer.
Our latest client is the wonderful city of Huntington Beach. They
Okay.
have it's a POA. It's not HO. The people don't live there, but
Not a POS, but a
Yeah,
POA.
yeah. I was like, wait, what are we
property,
going with that?
property owners association versus a homeowners association.
Yes.
But nonetheless, they have an association, and it's aging now, and they've maintained it, but they haven't really set aside for its long-term upkeep. So now they're coming into, all right, this is how you manage an association, whether it be homeowners or commercial property. I know you guys probably do a lot of commercial. We do a lot of non-HOAs, and they're not much different. I mean, obviously the laws are different, but everybody needs to maintain their property.
Yeah,
Everyone needs
all
to
assets
save.
start to deplete.
Everyone needs to insure their property. I mean, these are all things that across the board that I think are good education for anybody who is involved in real estate investment, or management.
And speaking of California, and we just did a presentation together of aging communities, right? That's where I see a big delta of HOAs think they have enough money to do these repairs, but they don't realize, and you talked about that, the more you defer, the more that cost goes up to replace it. So maybe you can chat a little bit about that, of being proactive and how that exponentially saves you money.
There's two great proactives on that. One is age and degradation extends when you don't maintain the property. So, I hear the discussion points because in a typical reserve study, you might have multiple items of paint. Well, one of them may be the stucco. Generally speaking, stucco is pretty durable. If you don't paint it on a regular basis, it's going to be fine. It may be,
But the wood underneath,
unappealing, but it doesn't cause any more problems. It doesn't degrade. Where if you have wood and it needs to be painted, well, now the underlying material becomes degraded, and now the cost to repair is much higher. Same thing with metal. If it starts to rust, well, now I have more prep costs. So if you defer some items, then their costs go up, and that's true with most, not everything. I mean, I'll give you asphalt. I'll pick on the asphalt guys. Your asphalt looks ugly. It's not going to look that much uglier in 2 years. It's not going to be better. I'll give you that, but it's not going to be much
going to
more.
roll over it the next time anyway.
If you're ready to rip your asphalt up and put down new asphalt, if you want to delay it a year or two for financial reasons, that's not a big deal, because it's not going to get that much uglier, and it's certainly not going to be any less expensive or more expensive other than just a standard inflation.
But if you have a wood balcony that you defer.
And if you're not coating your balcony, well, forget. Now you're going to get water trapped in there. What happens to water? It sits in a warm, dark, dry place.
Yeah.
Well, rot.
Yeah.
So when you allow these conditions to go on, then you can't see. That's why, we could talk about the balcony bill. Maybe it's a step too far, but one of the things I thought was curious is, they require these structural engineers and architects, great folks, but why not a pest guy? Get them out there every 2 years. Why every 9 with these guys? These pest guys find stuff, and they'll give you, hey, it may not be there yet, but here's where the water's dripping in, and if I come back 5 years from now, I can tell you what it looks like.
So for board members, if they're looking at this situation of that, what would be your suggestion of how to remain proactive, right? Obviously, what would be some of the things that you
be
would
aggressive with maintenance? Every property, again, not HOA, every property should have a maintenance manual.
Okay.
So they should have an idea of their components. Everything that they are there to maintain and
how do they get one of those?
They can call up. There are a number of companies. Empire Works, ProTech. So depending on what industry you're in, a number of these maintenance companies, they'll come out and they'll identify for you and say, okay, you have a water heater, and this is the things that you need to do to your water heater.
So kind of like your car, where it's like, hey, change the oil every 3,000 miles, change the brakes at this. Do this, and we see a lot of those HOAs are like they're just reactionary.
Yeah, and for new properties in the last 15 to 20 years, that's been part of the
handover. Right?
They get that from a developer. Here's that. Obviously, for older properties, they don't have that. But even properties that got one 20 years ago, well, it's outdated by now.
Yeah.
So you should do that. One of the changes to the reserve study standards of practice in 2023 was to recognize this. So if you are an HOA and you do not have a maintenance manual, well, guess what? You can spend reserves to get that now. You can put that in your reserve study as a component.
Protecting your asset, basically.
And say,
right?
we're going to spend the money to one of these companies out there, these maintenance companies, to provide that for us so that we know. And then those help you set your operating budget because, again, when it says, okay, you have a water heater, what needs to be done to your water heater? Well, the replacement every 10 years is your reserve study item. But, to drain the water heater, replace this, the routine inspections, water heater should be looked at once or twice a year.
And I love your story about when you replace a water heater.
Yeah. Well, the question is, who decides we're going to replace the carpet in a rec room? And of course, well, that's the board of directors. Everyone knows that, right? And then, who decides to replace the water heater at the service of the rec room? And everyone's, well, of course it's the board of directors. Well, no, it's the water heater that decides.
Right.
Right?
Because when it goes out,
that's when it goes out.
Exactly.
The gate operator decides when the gate operator. So there's a number of items that they're replaced when they decide,
break, right?
Because their failure rate.
Yeah.
Some things failure over time. I mean, wood railing, well, it just slowly deteriorates, and then you got to replace it.
Yeah.
Other items they work right up until the day that they don't.
Right. Yeah.
So that's again, nobody can predict with great accuracy. So go back to the water heater. If you've got a 10-year-old water heater and that's its estimation based on its usage and so forth, all right, so if it doesn't, but it's not a bad idea to have to replace the water heater. Because, if you get caught short, like, if it failed early, well, no, I'm sure that's the problem. But having more than enough money is no problem. So, if you have these components, save at the rate that you're supposed to. And if you don't have to replace it when expected, great, another year of interest earnings on your money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, talk about having the maintenance schedule, the maintenance plan that's also going to make you look better, more attractive to insurance carriers, right? That are really looking at all of the things.
Yes.
It makes the HOA look more proactive and, being professionally managed and all of the things that are, as you say, a feather in the cap with all of those.
Yeah, and I've said this, and you guys know this for a while, that the insurance company is not changing their policy anytime soon. They figured it out. Reserve studies are a good measuring tool for risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the HOA that has an old roof that they don't have the money to replace, well, what are they going to do? They're going to leave the roof in service. That's what they're going to do. And they're going to patch it and Band-Aid it.
Right.
And they're going to have roof leaks, and those are going to be insurance claims.
And what we see, too, is that, the reserve study might say useful life of 40 years. But the insurance company is saying, hey, after 25, we want those replaced.
Mm-hmm.
So now, same thing with the fire risk.
Yes.
Is a lot of times they're like, oh, well, we've done all this, this fuel mod, and we're a safe community. It's not going to move the needle with some of these carriers. So it's the advice that we have is make sure whatever you're doing is going to have a positive impact. It's kind of like getting,
and they're learning too. And again, we of course applaud that. Use the reserve study as a risk management tool for insurance companies to help them. It's also gone the other way where you have to educate the insurance companies. We had one this year. It happened to be on the mortgage side, but it's the same concept. Is they want to make sure that these people have the money for these big ticket items. So they found that the plumbing was at zero and cost $2 million. And they're like, wow, there's a $2 million expense coming up any time. And so they were ready to deny the loan. And we had to explain to them, well, yes, that is true, but they have $5 million in the bank.
Right.
So they're well prepared for that. And so the system is functional. That's why they haven't replaced it.
Right.
And when it does start to fail, they have more than enough money to replace it. So no, they're not a risk. But if you just look at that line item, $2 million, zero life.
Right.
So that's why you have to engage the report and look more closely. And that's our goal, is to educate the insurance industry, the mortgage industry, and consumers what to look for in these documents, because they're becoming more and more prevalent part of the transaction.
Yeah, and that's everything, right? If you can't borrow, then what? Well, the property's not worth anything, because in California the cost, like, not a lot of people paying cash for these houses.
And we've been talking for years about FHA financing rules, which are of course very important. And we get a lot of pushback from people, particularly in California and the areas, because the limits are the 725. So of course, a lot of them are like, well, we don't use FHA for these $3 million homes. It's like, that's terrific. Have you ever thought about using your equity? Because again, same rules apply. If you want to remodel your kitchen, you want to take your equity out. Well, if it's an FHA loan, it's great on that. If you're a veteran, you want to send your kid to college on one of those great programs, guess what they're going to require?
Yeah.
They're going to require that you follow the guidelines to use that as collateral.
Right.
So while you may not need it to
get in the property,
acquire it, but you're going to want to use your equity. And again, those are the best rates. So of course you can get financing, but you're going to be a point or two higher. And why would you want to do that?
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. And what, like, lately too, with rates and all the things. You work with so many. How many different HOAs do you work with?
We do a little over 600 a year.
That's amazing. And how big is your team?
What are we up now? 6, 7 of us?
Gosh.
That's pretty mighty. It's small but mighty, right?
I was going to ask how you use AI with that, but you finish your question.
No. But no, but it is. The passion that you have for that and the time and the effort that you take is, I commend you for. We're watching. I think everybody could it uses you as an example because
thank you.
this is how, that's why this space is so special, is that there's people that have been in this business for a long time and they're trying to impart the wisdom because you're trying to make these communities better as a whole.
Yeah. My generation, where we were the second wave, we weren't there for Easton Strasburger and the real estate specter. We weren't there for the Davis Sterling Act, but they were right there afterwards.
Yeah.
And so while Les Weinberg, my business partner and the co-founder of RSI, is the pioneers, we're the second generation that moved it forward. And that's all we're trying to do is just get it to a step further than it was. And we've done that. I mean, tragedy helps. That Champagne Towers was certainly a tragic event, but it created more awareness for reserve studies and fiscal responsibility than a lot. Anybody who's followed the condo market now in Florida, consumers, just people off the street are like, well, let me see your reserve study. When I got this business 25 years ago,
right? When you hear
I
that,
had to explain it to every person I ever met. You go to a party with your wife, hi, how are you? What do you do? Give me a FMS.
Right. Well, it is. That's all right. It's kind of like how much money do you have in the bank, right? Like
it is.
That's your backstop, right? And if you don't have that, then we talk about that special assessment, right? That's more money that you have to spend that each person has to pay that they're not going to see,
Yes, and it's had a dramatic impact on real estate all over the country now. I think the number's up to 12 or 13 states that have reserve studies laws. Just a few years ago, that was like 3 or 4. Utah and Nevada specifically are getting very much. I mean, Nevada says, show me your reserves. They want to really
verify the
I'm
funds.
surprised it's only 12 or 13 states.
Yeah,
and not
well, it's
all
moving
of them.
rapidly. It's moving rapidly.
Well, because all new construction is within some type of HOA, right?
Most of it, yeah. Certainly 60-70% of anything built in a metro area.
And those states have been growing, right? The Texases and these things.
Yeah, and people don't realize that you're right. Almost everything is like, just for instance, the congressional district of California, the California congressional district that has the most HOAs in California.
Ooh, that's a little tidbit of a question.
Yeah, that's a good trivia question.
Is it up north somewhere?
It is not up north, and the natural tendency is to think of densely populated areas.
Maybe
Right.
Newport Beach or something?
No, not even close.
No.
Beautiful Temecula, California.
Because
Really?
Everything that's
is an
built in
HOA.
the last 20 years is in an HOA.
Yes,
Right.
And so they don't have the sky rises and the multifamilies, but all of those PUDs out there, those are all. So yes, in Idaho and other places, when they're building out there, they're building in an HOA.
Well, it's you got to get that density and the economy of scale, right?
Yeah,
especially here in California with the thing.
Yeah, and the commercial condo is a very popular product now, because even small business people realize the tax benefits of owning their own unit and all that. So, I only need 900 square feet, so it's not exactly a giant industrial complex, but I'm going to own it, and I'm going to take those tax breaks for it, and the appreciation that comes for it.
Well, Summer, you mentioned AI, which always gets me excited because
I know you get excited
all about,
every time.
All about that stuff of how can we, and I know, Scott, you and I, we've dabbled back and forth on a few things, and I keep pinging you of, hey, what are you doing?
And Corey was great about giving us a template of what AI recommended, and we're actually doing that. We have a group of it's called Upwork, and so our vice president, I'll give her a shout out, Tara Padilla, has been handling that project. So our reports are put together in 2 basic formats. One is Excel, and the other is a Microsoft Word.
Yeah,
and so she's working with these individuals to really streamline that process. So the Excel side has really come a long way.
That's
We've really
great.
made some progress on that. Our next group is going to be the inspection side, which is the Word, which is the documentation. Like, this is your water heater, this is its condition, et cetera. And we're pretty excited about that.
There's so many new tools.
There's cameras out. You walk around with your phone and you record and you talk, and then it gives you a summary report. Well, that's half a reserve study right there.
Right.
So we are very confident that AI is going to
and it's an enhancement, right?
Oh,
a lot of people are like, hey,
really
this is going to get rid of jobs.
It's an enhancement.
You and I were talking before about how you did a preliminary budget, and a lot of times you couldn't give a lot of flavor about it because you just don't have the time. But now, if it's got a set of parameters that you want to do, we do the same thing. Now I can give you more context quicker and be more valuable, not less valuable. So we see that. We're working on something right now where it's literally you're going to be able to talk to it and say, I want to do this, create a standard operating procedure for it so I can give this to my staff to be able to do. So I think the upside is dramatic, especially in our HOA space.
Yeah, I worked on it's the Association of Professional Reserve Analysts. It's the professional group.
That's got to be a lively group. Where do you guys
the
meet
Apple
at?
parties? Well, in Vegas, dude, we follow CAI, by the way. So
Okay, all right.
our seminar every year is the day after CAI.
Champagne bottles, right?
Yeah. So
I'm
it's
just
a big
picturing
affair.
it.
Yeah, it's the nerdiest, geekiest fest
I'm
in
like,
the
it's
world.
not like pocket protectors.
Yeah,
and,
it's-
Members only jackets. a bunch of them. Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's it is quite the crowd, but they have recognized the need for AI, and they're as a group industry, they're so far along in it. They realize that it is really great for the repetitive stuff of looking at your water heaters and that kind of thing. It hasn't been good yet at all the computations.
Yeah.
Like Excel is great at that because it's been doing that for 30 some years now. So everyone is still mostly using Excels and similar products for their computations,
Right.
but their data gathering and their presentation is being very enhanced by AI.
Yeah. So what's your projection then with AI? What you see, like how long do you see before that really can, like, I don't want to say revolutionize, but do you see that could double, triple your business if you're able to do things in a faster pace?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because
whenever I talk to you, you're like, I got more than enough that I can handle. And
there's
reserves.
There's top line and bottom line.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much AI is going to generate more revenue. How many more than the 600 we'll get per year.
Yeah.
But absolutely, it's going to reduce our labor costs to produce those 600 reserve studies, which is important. Again, just our company, we're a boutique firm, right? We're not the largest in the industry or all that, and we're a high quality individual. So like the high quality products out there, we're on the higher end of the scale.
Get what you pay for.
Yeah, and so we've built our reputation around that, and that's fine. But the spread between us and the competition is there, and we always have to be cognizant of that. So if they get more efficient in their process and they bring their price really far down, or they bring their quality closer with AI, well, then it changes our perspective. So we absolutely want to be on the cutting edge because right now, we believe we have a quality advantage, and we feel that we have certainly a time and business advantage and a
well, you guys have an amazing reputation. And I think if you can do anything that can enhance that, I mean that's
and we're very friendly. It's a great industry, by the way. The reserve industry has got a lot of really great folks.
Yeah, you guys are amazingly.
So we try very hard to help each other out. We're not going to give away our best client list, but if somebody has something that's going to improve the quality of the service that they offer the public, we're all for that.
Yeah, all boats rise together, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, we truly believe in that.
Yes.
Yeah, the insurance industry is one of those that, again, very friendly guys are competitors, and they wish each other well because there's plenty of business, and I can't do it all. So.
It's a small world, and it's all going to come. It's all going to come back around.
It's a great industry. As I mentioned, and may have known, my previous life was in the home inspection business and the real estate related field, and there's just no loyalty there. It's all cutthroat. There's no friendliness at all. So
this is a real treat. Then.
Oh, it is a real treat. Yeah, I mean, again, the clients give you one example of. And it's rare. Every now and then you get some jerk client who doesn't want to pay your final voice. Everybody in the reserve business, half up front, half when you get it. That's normal. So every now and then you have somebody who doesn't pay. Okay, no big deal. We have had 4 or 5 times in the 25 years that I've been doing this, a community manager finds out that somebody who wants to use us again hasn't paid us in the back. Every single one of them to a person has said, you pay them what you owe them before we're going to do this. They were all very much like, no, we take care of our vendors, and
that's
they
fantastic.
take care of their vendors.
And that's with this space for sure, right? Because the property manager and the community manager right there, they're the ultimate facilitator.
Yeah.
But we all need to work together.
And they're smart because they realize, if you need a pest control guy, man, do you need a pest control guy, right?
Yeah.
So, always be friendly with somebody in the pest control business.
Yeah.
So they take care of their vendors.
Yeah.
Which, like I say, wasn't the case in the real estate. It's, it's a commission, cutthroat, do it today, tomorrow's another game.
I'm sure, right? Yeah, exactly. So, but so on personal side, so give us a little bit about family, who you are, brag a little bit here. Come on.
Sure. I am the proud father of 2 children.
Yes.
Me and my wife live in beautiful Long Beach. Been there a while. We love it. My oldest, my son Kai, he works for RSI.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's family business. He also has another side job. He's much smarter than me, and he works for a computer cybersecurity business, which
Okay.
I don't know if you know, but apparently it's a good industry these days.
Yeah, a lot of
So he works for Dad because he likes to, and we have a good relationship. But he does that as
good
well.
for you.
And then I've got a daughter who is you might have heard of a company called Haystack. It's a it's a legal source firm. So she's a manager at Haystack. She's only 23 and making 6+ figures.
Good
so
for
she's
her.
doing great for
Good
herself.
job, Dad.
Yeah, living in a condo in Huntington Beach.
So you're empty nesters.
Yeah, so we're empty nesters. We got a dog and a cat. So we got that.
You replaced the kids with fur babies.
Well, no, the dog was the kid. The poor dog. He's 13 now. He's sundowning because that was a dog we got for our kids. I mean, when I brought that dog home, my daughter was 11 and cried.
Aww.
So yeah, that's the family pet.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we've got two at home still, but.
And then I know you like the outdoors. We've done some hiking together, things. So it seems like you're now going to be able to focus a little bit more on some of those pleasure things, hopefully.
Hopefully, I've tried to scale back a little bit as much as I can. One of my investments every single year, it's the best investment out there, is that California State Parks Pass.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can go to any state park as often as you want.
Right.
And I love all the beach areas around here. As I mentioned, we live in Long Beach. It doesn't have any state parks. But Bolsa Chica State Beach is a quick drive away. I get the bike there. I ride the Strand. I have fun there. Laguna has Crystal Cove.
Yes.
There's several sections of that. So, I mean, that's the great thing about the pass is a couple of weeks ago. So we went down into what's known as the canyon area and all that, and you park and you can walk under that little tunnel and you got the beach area and all that. All right. Well, and as you know, that the cool Shake Shack up there, that's a great place to eat, right?
Yes.
But you can't find parking.
That's a long walk, and it's hard to find parking.
Yeah.
So what you do with your pass is you leave that park, and then you go right across the street to the park that's on the ocean side, and you can park. It's almost a half mile. It's about a half mile, but the closest parking spot to the Shake Shack is about a half mile. It's just a small walk.
So you get a good walk after the
so
Shake.
you get a nice walk
That's
to
a
the
good
Shake
tip.
Shack, and you walk back, and it's all good. And like I say, you moved your car and you parked twice, but it's all free. So it's not $20 at each stop.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I was talking to somebody else too of like traveling, right? Like we're in California. We have so many amazing things, but we all think when we want to go on vacation, where are we going to go? So, right, there's so many gems
Where you
that we
don't
have.
have to get on an airplane, right?
Yeah,
There's
no,
so
we
many-
constantly go up and down the coast. I mean, one of our favorite spots, we've been probably going there once a year for over a decade, is Avila Beach. It's a small little nothing beach town, but we like it. We're old. It's not like we need we need a rocket to Huntington Beach every week, I love Huntington Beach, by the way. I go there all the time. But, my passes towards the, the Red Bull and OP championships are like in the middle of the day when I could go and just enjoy it. I wouldn't try that place on a weekend. It's a madhouse. And, God bless the young people having fun.
Yes.
But so that's the quiet.
So you're not
life.
going to Coachella? Is what
We're not going to Coachella, all that. So we use our park pass to go all over the state, enjoy hikes everywhere.
That's
Anybody in
awesome.
Southern
I love that
California,
idea.
get out to Crystal Cove. That's one of the nicest hiking spots.
You talked about your kids. You got to brag about your wife a little bit, or she's not.
My
gonna
wife,
yes.
Lovely. She is a marriage family therapist.
Okay.
Oh, wifey.
She works in Costa Mesa in a practice group there. She specializes in couples therapy. It's a group called the Gottman theory. And so there's a very famous psychologist who has a whole program on couples counseling called Gottman. So she specializes in that. And, it sounds
So are you
funny.
her guinea pig?
We are absolutely guinea pigs. And I will tell people it really has worked. It's made our marriage better because it talks about communication and things of, of respect and understanding where people come from and, little things that we talk about like, de-escalation and so forth.
Yeah.
It has helped a lot. And she's been, very successful at that and enjoys it very much, feels very fulfilled.
Yeah.
She, like I say, specializes in couples and you hear stories. And it makes you feel like a better person. Like, well, Jesus, I'm not that.
Yeah.
But no, so
you've been married how long now?
What are we? 13 years now.
Okay. So after the 13 years and the thing, what's the advice then coming from that area? Don't go to sleep mad.
Don't go to sleep mad, but always make sure that you're still friends. At the end of the day, it's a friendship.
Yeah.
Which means you truly like each other.
Yeah, you got to
like
enjoy each
spending
other's
time
company.
together.
You've got to respect each other's thoughts, opinions, desires. We joke about where we're going to go to dinner and all that.
Yeah.
And so we found a routine. My by the way, my birthday was yesterday, as most people know.
Happy birthday!
And so I picked the spot. It was a Thai place, which
Right.
she's fine with. She eats sushi, she's all good that. So we've learned that of course on your birthday you pick. After that, there's 3 or 4 spots.
My wife and I do 1, 2, 3. These are the top. These are the
Yeah.
3 places that I like. You
Yeah.
put them in the order that you would prefer,
Yeah.
and then there's a compromise
That's so
there.
good.
Yeah.
Versus where do you want to go?
Yeah, yeah,
Open-ended,
right.
right?
And know what's important to them. I'll give you one example, a little silly thing, but I run by the grocery store all the time. I like fresh fruit and
Yeah.
all that, so I run it by all the time. And so I used to just swing by a grocery store, pick up stuff, and then come home. And my wife was like, "You went to the grocery store? You didn't let me know." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I was just running by 10 minutes and all that." So now we have a thing. If I have time and I'm going to be at the grocery store, I text her and let her know, and she'll be picking things. If I'm running somewhere, if I'm like, "Hey, I got an appointment, I got to be somewhere," then no, it's okay. So if there's new groceries in the fridge, she's fine with it. But if it happens too much and she hasn't had a text, then she's like, "Why didn't you let me know?"
I just want to be asked, right?
Exactly. Just want to be asked.
And
And
we-
she knows, that friendly text, that's 3 or 4 items. You
Yeah,
send me a
right,
9-item
right,
list,
right.
I'll be like, "Whoa."
Yeah. Like
Now, as small as that is, like, look how important that is
It
with the
is.
communication, right? And it's just like
It's
those little
huge to
things that can
her.
help from
And
animosity
once you
building
start
up
doing
over
that,
time.
she feels fulfilled.
That's
It sounds
awesome.
so funny. That,
what about you, Summer? How do you manage Bill?
yeah.
Her husband.
Do we manage Bill? I
Yes.
don't know. My husband just retired.
Oh,
but we
gosh,
talked
boy,
about
do
it a
I
while
wanna
ago.
talk
So
more husband
he
to
just
him.
retired a couple of months ago, and after a long career with Dell, and he is just on top of the world now, which is lovely to see. He was very stressed before,
Sure.
and now I feel like his perspective on things have changed because it's not always coming from a place of stress. Now it's just kind of like, oh yeah, I golfed.
And how much pre-planning does he do to his day? Is it like every day wake up and plan, or is he 2 or 3 days in advance?
Oh, every day wake up and plan.
Oh,
He
wow.
might know the night before, like, hey, I'm
Oh,
going to
okay.
golf tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. or whatever. And whenever I'm like, what's happening today? It's kind of like, whatever I want.
Good for him.
which is amazing, right?
It actually has made
Yeah.
things great because he's not stressed like he was.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so, but it is interesting because when he first told me he was going to retire early, I thought, I am too young to have a retired husband. So,
You're like, no.
no.
Right.
Anyway, it's been really cool to see him.
And it's different
in his-
perspective. Like we have kids. I love to look through the eyes of my children because it gives a certain optimism or a certain thing, and they put things in perspective. So I'm sure, right, the things that we stress out, especially now that they're not there,
Right.
it's like what's important, and it is time and connecting with people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So when are you retiring then?
We've got a 5 to 10 year horizon.
All
I
right.
turned 62 yesterday.
Okay.
And so just the way it pans out, I probably won't retire before I'm 70, but
Yeah.
certainly any time after that. But we really thought about semi-retiring before
Yeah.
that. We're both self-employed, and so
Yeah.
we can scale back. I joke with people, I've been semi-retired for 10 years now. But,
Right.
So yeah, we'll probably continue to scale back as time goes on. But I mean, it sounds funny. I really like what I do.
No,
it's
and
not like I wake
That
up every day
is
going,
so cool.
"Gosh darn, I got to do this again."
Yeah.
So I'm not in any hurry to leave. I like the people I work with. The staff has been great. My own personal staff, the industry I
Yeah.
work in, I have a lot of good friends.
So cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in absolutely no hurry to leave. And I do.
Well, we're not trying to push you out.
Yeah, I
Not
do
yet.
feel important to make the industry go to the next step. Reserves was in a good place when I got here, and I want to
gonna
make
leave it
sure it's
better.
at a good place when I'm time to.
We
to
appreciate
go.
you, and then that's even an important thing to you, and it really is.
Yeah.
Right. Money is always important, but making a difference is thing. And we've talked about, how we can continue to elevate that. And I think it's through that education, but the way that people are receiving education now is different. This as a whole, right? How do we change that and at least get the nuggets of information to people? And I know there's so many different ways to do that, but before we talked about how you're trying to consolidate things, right? It used to be long form. Like, how do you make this clear and
Yeah.
concise? And, almost like the TikTok video, right?
Yeah.
Short form education.
Yeah.
And we were mentioning the discussion point that we've done these programs over the years, and then and the pandemic, everything went virtual, and then after the pandemic, everything
Nothing came
stayed
back, yeah.
virtual. So you've had to learn, but there's been a really big benefit to that. In that, on a weekly basis now, I'm able to connect with a board of directors, the whole board, or majority of this board, and talk and discuss and explain the product. It takes the poor manager out of the dilemma of having to explain this, 300-page, highly, technical document. It takes the board out of having to guess or make assumptions. It allows me to connect with the consumer. And so now next year when they get that proposal, that might be a few bucks cheaper.
Yeah.
They'll go, yeah, it might be a few bucks cheaper, but boy, that guy sat there for a half hour and explained everything like he never, So it has provided more opportunities. So I think that's what we should look at the things that all people can access and use. And what can we do to enhance their capability to make good decisions on that? Because,
I just want to come up with a meeting platform that actually works. Because it's like every call we get on, it's like, you can't get the microphone, you can't
You're
get
muted,
this.
Karen.
Yeah, you're muted. Yeah, like it's amazing. We have all these advanced tools and they're great, but still the skill set of each person is it is not.
And Nirvana for me is the way to blend a live presentation with video.
We've tried to do that several times.
And it's just really hard. I've done live presentations and gotten standing ovations.
Yeah.
And if you tried and pull that in on a Zoom call, it'd be like
crickets.
Yeah. So when they can marry those two, because there's certainly something said to be the live interaction and the feedback and the persona that goes on that. But, it's just the pure stats. I joke about it. My wife and I, we go back. We were one of the first couples that met on the internet.
Nice.
Love that.
Really?
I remember Match.
And so, we were one of the first couples, like, where'd you meet? Now it's kind of like the thing, where else would you meet? But I remember at the time saying to people, I found it so unromantic. It was like buying a car, like, I want red, I want blue or whatever. Yeah. And so you're saying, take off, and so it seemed so unromantic. However, you knew that it was a really way to cull the field down, right?
Yeah.
Like, I only want this kind of, and so I
find like-minded people.
Yeah, exactly. I did it reluctantly as a efficiency process, and then realized that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you meet it. You go there. So I understand the benefits that the internet gives and want to maximize that, but I don't want to give up the mutual interaction and so forth. I'm a Michael Schmerkanish fan, and he has a thing called the Mingle program. And the whole idea of the Mingle program is just to get together and chat about anything and be respectful in your discussion, because, of course, if you meet people from different areas, there are going to be differences of opinions and different methodologies and all that. And that's fine when you encounter that. We'll just be respectful and talk
and find
about
common ground.
And find out what you're common and agree to disagree. But that's where the society has broken down. Again, we talk about our community managers, and they've been the greatest over the years. And to see the way that they've been treated in the post-pandemic era is
people
so
have lost
sad.
their mind, right?
Yeah, people who lost their mind, so they treat people that they feel are in this inferior position like, well, they have to take this, otherwise
I pay your salary.
Yeah,
type thing.
and that's just a terrible mentality, to have. And so I'm hopeful that we can find a way to find the common ground and to explain to everything, we're in this together. I mean, it sounds funny, but go to these, or you participate in these HOA meetings, and they're acting like they're enemies. You're like, whoa, people, you all are investors here. You all have the same idea. And so you may have a different methodology to achieve your goal, but you all literally have the same goal.
I think that's the biggest challenge there, the thing to crack the nut here, which is it's the homeowners against the HOA.
Yes.
And how do you change that? And I think with some of this AI, right, can we get rid of the friction points and to bring down the temperature in the room? Hopefully, right? Because that's the thing, those requests that don't get answered, or the unreasonable thing, or the not understanding the complexities.
And de-escalate, situations. So if you have that first discussion point, or, okay, what's wrong? Well, my pipes are leaking and so forth. If that was a
adversarial,
a convenient, easy way to do it, they would do that. But, they get a person on the phone, and the natural is like, hey, you idiots, my plumbing is, and it starts the relationship off bad. And of course, the people on the other end can't be helped but offended. So it puts them on a different platform. So if there was a way to allow AI to get that first angry phone call, I worked in the home inspection business for a long time, and right next door to me was the head of the IT program. And it was just amazing how many problems people have.
Yeah.
And, that was back in the day. It was like, well, did you try pushing the any key?
Right.
And it was just.
Did you reboot, right?
Yeah. So it just, and that's I think, kind of where we're at now is, we just kind of have to take a step back and de-escalate when we have, my computer's down, instead of calling the IT guy and saying your software's terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that hopefully what I see, or my hope is that, right, AI is going to take care of all the friction, and really all we're going to have is our own personal brand, right? Yeah. Who you are, how you can connect with people, and how you can make people feel good. Are you covered? Are you any of those emotions that are there? But it'll get those friction points out of the way so that you can just be one human to another
Yeah.
instead of this kind of adversarial relationship.
And I think it's reminding them, especially when there's, adversarial type board meetings, is reminding everyone, like you said, we're all investors in this. We all have, skin in the game here. We ultimately want the same thing. I think that sometimes that helps de-escalate because it's like, oh shit, that's right. We all are in the same boat.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of hope on the new generation. As I mentioned, I got kids and, I know you got even younger children. And so I put a lot of stock in that. One silly, stupid thing that we've had company policy since day one is everybody gets a hello. We cross a lot of people, a lot of landscapers and maids and people who, don't get the respect out there. And our policy is just, you pass somebody, you always get a hi and a hello. It doesn't matter who you are, member, board member, whatever. And
goes a long way.
Absolutely.
the young people completely get that. They're just like, well, what else would you do? And he's like, so it gives me confidence that, there's a young generation that wants better civility.
I do see some glimpses of things where you see that young kid that's like just on fire and you're like, okay.
That makes me so happy when I see that.
Yeah, there's some stuff.
Yes.
So I think we're getting a little, of course, I knew we'd have the problem of not having enough, but not having enough
We're
time.
We're going to need a part 2.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to come back with this treatment.
Well, we appreciate you coming, your counsel all the time. I think we got some good stuff coming. We're going to try to do some educational stuff with you and make this, elevate, like you said. So
love it. Well, Scott, where can people find you?
Yeah.
You can find us at reservestudiesinc.com. Personally, I'm Scott at reservestudiesinc.com. So you can find us on the web, Facebook, Instagram, the whole deal, but it's reservestudies.com.
Yay. Awesome. Thanks for being here with us. We will see you on the next episode of Next Level Living. Bye.